Greetings and welcome to Mediocre Minis. Spooky season continues with the weird bug. Yeah, that's what we're going to call it. We're going to call it the weird bug. As with previous minis, this is a Reaper Bones miniature, and I'm not exactly sure its official name or what it's specifically supposed to be. If you happen to know the exact mini name, please let me know down below. But for our purposes, we're just going to call it the weird bug, and bugs can be creepy, crawly, and disgusting, so that qualifies for spooky season. Let's get started. First, as with previous minis, we slap on a primer of the DNG, our dark neutral gray. Once that's dried, then we move straight into the base coat for the skin? We'll call it the skin, the top of the bug. We'll just go with that. For this area, I mixed green with a small amount of blue just to give it a nice darker green emeraldy color, because I was going to quickly go from here and start adding in yellow into the mix to give it a sickly greenish pukey color. I figured a bug of this nature probably doesn't look too good. It probably looks a little disgusting. So going with this pukey greenish seemed like a smart choice. I kept each layer relatively thin, starting off with just straight green and then slowly adding in yellow to the mix to give some interesting highlights and color variation over the course of all the bumps on the mini. One nice thing about painting monsters, and this kind of applied also when we did the wolf last spooky season edition, nature is a little bit inconsistent, so the paint job can be a little inconsistent. You don't necessarily need to make everything uniform. A little more green in one area, a little more yellow in another. And it worked out really nice, kind of splotchy, kind of all over, and turned out pretty nice with the yellowish highlights in the end. I started off by giving the belly of the miniature a base coat of light brown, and I realized almost instantly I didn't really like that. I should have just went with a off-white and then built in some of the browns from there, as opposed to doing it this way, going from light to dark. Worked out a lot better, so I ended up just rebasing the miniature, or the belly of the mini, with the off-white. Once the off-white was dry, then I started to highlight towards the center of the belly using first khaki, and then later on the initial light brown. Once all of those colors were dry, I gave the entire belly a wash of sepia, and kind of left it as is. Then we moved on to the tentacle, slimy face, mouth thing. We'll call it the mouth thing. From there, I wanted to make that a little bit stand out because it's probably nasty in real life if this bug were real. So I base coated it with a mixture of purple with a little bit of red. Once the purplish reddish mix dried, I then started to highlight up from there using just straight red relatively quickly, and kept the red paint relatively thin to give kind of this still purpley, fleshy thing. Yeah, we'll just call it that. Kept it pretty easy and pretty straightforward. The mouth area does stand out enough as it is, and I did like just a little bit of red on the tentacles or mouth bits. So that was pretty nice, and I wanted to leave it there. When I turned my attention to the claws, I then realized that there's arms-ish, or kind of weird armsy things on the claws, so I quickly went back and did the skin color all over again, this time on most of the claws, and because I just didn't do it before. I initially wanted to do it the same color as the mouth for some strange reason. Realized that wasn't really a smart idea and I didn't like it, so then I just, rebased it. So for the claws, I ended up base coating the bony clawy area with off-white. Then once that was dry, the top 2/3 of the claw, I then painted over with khaki. And this is just to give the idea of the bone gets darker as it gets further away from, we'll say, the root, or where it connects to the rest of the bug. And then a small amount of thinned light brown towards the tips. Then a sepia wash over the entire claw area, and I called it a day with that. And last but not least, we had the base. I started off with just a standard old gray base as I'd done before, and then realized that's kind of a dumb idea, because we've done that a bunch of times, and it's possible we can do other things. This is a bug, it's not necessarily on gray rock. So I did a green and light brown mix, about a 50-50 mix of the two colors, and then used that as the base coat for all of the rocks around the bug. Now, in some early highlights, some of the rocks got covered with a thin layer of khaki, some got a thin layer of gray, some just got a little bit of dry brushing, some of them got absolutely nothing. It was kind of haphazard because rocks in a swamp that are green and slimy and wet, there's not going to be any consistency, just like with the rest of the bug. And once that was all dry, I just gave the entire base a sepia wash to give it some more brown and to tone it down. Once all of that dried, I then dabbed on some of the green and brown mix that I used for the base coat once again to bring that back out in several areas and give it a little more variation. And did the same thing with the gray and a dark brown mix as well for more swampy rocks, and even just some of the straight up green. And there we have it, another spooky mini complete. Or at least kind of a creepy-ish mini, maybe not spooky but creepy. That still counts, right? It is kind of a nice break to take a look at a bug or a monster or another type of creature where you can kind of be a little more haphazard with your paint job. Things don't have to be as consistent. It's kind of a nice refresher, actually, after doing minis that require more fine lines and more stricter details. Being a little bit more free form with your paint job and kind of being a little messy is nice and a real nice palette cleanser. How about you? Do you like painting bugs and monsters? Do you like the green bug that I painted here? Let me know your thoughts down below, and especially if you have a link or know the specific name of this miniature. I would love to know that as well. Thank you once again for watching. I hope you are enjoying spooky season. This is Mediocre Minis, and may the divine light your path.